Okay, now I think we have audio. Great. This is Kilo Papa 4 Mike Delta Carol, your net control operator for River City ARC's slow scan television net. This net serves for training and practice in image transmission modes and meets Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Pacific time on the N6NA repeater on 441.30 megahertz in Sacramento, California, and also on our club's YouTube channel. The River City ARC's members and all licensed radio amateurs are welcome to participate. If you wish to join the net or need to make a call anytime, please announce your call sign between transmissions, and net control will acknowledge you. If a emergency should arise and you need the repeater, please contact the net control by saying break break. Double break signifies emergency traffic. The net will stand by for you until the emergency is terminated, or if the traffic moved to another frequency. Stations who wish to check in are asked to respond with the full call sign using the recognized ITU phonetic alphabet and their name. I will recognize each station before I continue. Any station who wishes to check into the net, please come now.
Hi, Carol. This is Bill, K6KRQ in the Thomas.
N6YG, George and Lincoln.
Okay, so far we have K6KRQ, Bill, Nate Thomas, and N6YG, George and Lincoln. Any other check-ins? Okay, well, small group. We may have a short net tonight. Not a problem. So I want to welcome you both here onto the net. And let me see, we have nobody checked into the live chat on YouTube yet. So let's go up to Bill, K6KRQ. I've been following your emails, and I believe you may be able to transmit a picture to us tonight. So I'm looking forward to seeing if that works. Over to you, K6KRQ, KP4MD, over.
KP4MD, K6KRQ. Hey again, Carol and George. Hey, first I want to say I got that picture that George sent. That's the best one I've ever got as far as clarity. And I noticed it was on a different format too, MR90. Did you see that too, Carol?
Oh yeah, that's George liked that format. I certainly got both of his pictures, the one prior to that also. Over.
Oh, I didn't get the one before it, but anyway, I'm going to give it the old college try here. I'm going to send one of maybe the best one I got from the ISS. I got I got a whole bunch, but not were complete 100%. And maybe about a handful that were full, but you've probably seen this one before, but we're going to give it a try. Here we go.
Okay, thank you very much for that picture, Bill. Actually, got the complete picture here, and it's very decent. I know you're using the Yaesu, I think it's the FT991 radio, um, but I'll ask you a little bit more about that later, about your station that you used to receive this. And want to say welcome to Alan, Kilo 6 Alpha Golf Whiskey, who is monitoring us on live chat on our YouTube channel. So back over to you, George. How did you copy that and your comments on that picture? N6YG, this is KP4MD, over.
Carol, that actually came over very well. I only see as far as his, I don't know, I'm pretty sure that was on his reception side. There's just one little fade, and it's not much of one. I mean, it's actually a very short fade. You know, it's normally when you see that Faraday fade, it's usually much larger than that. That's actually very short, so almost looks like maybe some other type of interference. But no, that came over real well. Looks good. Congratulations.
AI6TG
N6HA.
Oh, great. We have two more check-ins. We'll add you on the list here, AI6 DG. That's Joel, and November 6 Hotel Alpha. That's Bill in Roseville. So let's get some. Joel, did you receive that picture, and do you have any comments on it? Over.
received it. Excellent reception. It's kind of hard to tell since it's a retransmit over retransmit, which is from my reception and which is from the original reception. I actually see three lines or bars, one right at the bottom of the pictures and one on the picture at their about face level, and one right out underneath the first text line, 40th anniversary of. See a slight moire pattern, but that's probably the original reception. I think we've seen this picture before last week. So they must have sent this picture a bunch of times, or just random chance that multiple people on this net have received this picture. Back to net AI6DG.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Joel, we have seen this picture before, but this is a reception that Bill did it. He wanted to share. And I see the same thing. I see three fades exactly where you pointed them. They're thin lines. I've seen some of these Faraday fades that are like that. They're not necessarily very slow. They're quick and they go right through and pop right back up. Bill, K6KRQ, that's a Yaesu FT991, and the antenna, could you please refresh us what antenna you used for this, and what kind of cable, transmission, coaxial cable, and how long it was? Over.
KP4MD, K6KRQ. First, I want to say I'm glad that Bill and are here, or I would have been really disappointed they didn't see this after all they helped me with. Joel, I meant. I'm sorry. Other than a 91, I got a vertical Comet GP3 that's at the end of about 75 feet of LMR 400. Now, I remember George saying on another net a few weeks ago a vertical might do okay on a 30 or so degree pass. This one was a 35 degree pass. That would seem to speak to that. The lines you see on it are what came, or are original from what I caught off the satellite. So they weren't introduced as I retransmitted to you guys. So I'm very happy I was able to do it. And again, thanks for all your guys' help on it. Back to you, Carol, in the net, K6KRQ.
Okay, all I can say is really congratulations, and Yes, LMR 475 feet is okay. It's a low loss cable, and 75 feet to your antenna should not be a problem. Very good, and congratulations to you. Are there any other comments on this picture before we move on?
Yeah, I have a comment. N6YG.
Yeah, yes, go ahead, George, please.
That Maury A pattern you're seeing, I've seen that quite a bit over the years, and I think it's just a combination of the volume level on your input. It might also be the result of multipath. Sometimes you'll get some crosstalk on certain sound cards. You'll get some crosstalk, but that radio has the sound card built into it. I think those use like a C media chipset, so you shouldn't be having that issue.
Okay,
In the advanced menu, in the setup menu, there's a section there where you can set a loop back, and you can do an external loop back to test your reception and your output. And I just use like you can use an external cable, if your computer, well, you're using the sound card in the radio, which makes it kind of difficult to do. So you have to test and see if it'll do an internal loop back, and then you can send a picture and receive it simultaneously, and you'll be receiving the picture that you're sending, and that kind of helps you. You can play around with your settings, your volume settings a little bit on the input and the output to try to get rid of that. So anyhow, back to that N6YG.
okay, thank you very much. Any other comments before we proceed on to the next picture?
N6HA.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, great accomplishment, Bill. And a lot of hard work that you put in to get images sending. So congratulations. And image looks great. I want to let you know that your instructions have already helped one other person. I forwarded it on to another ham who has had issues with sending FMS-STV or MMS-STV. So hopefully it helps them also. So good work, N6HA.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yeah, we're all learning from this. And great catch. Very good. Congratulations on your adventures in space communications, Bill. It's certainly very satisfying when you get to do something new like this. Let's go up to George, N6YG. Do you have a picture to share with us? If so, we'll standing by to copy it. Over.
Alrighty. I'm getting a lot of pave pause interference down here, so let's see how this comes out. N6YG.
Wow, this is history. I recognize that fellow. Let's go down to Bill. November 6 Hotel Alpha. How did you copy that, and what are your comments? Over.
Yeah, good reception here. I like it. I don't actually I see Pave Pause really beat you up a little bit, but as far as the reception from ISS, it looks like you probably got nearly a flawless copy. So yeah, it looks great. This is image 2 of 12. I got this one also. It says W5LFL testing the Motorola radio prior to the STS-9 flight. So yeah, good photo, good copy here. I'm wondering how you got this so well. So I thought you were running vertical. So yeah, interested to hear more. N6HA, back to that.
Okay, yeah, we're going up to Bill now. K6KRQ. How did you copy this, and your comments on it? Over.
This is Bill, K6KRQ. That is outstanding. And that is one of all the partials I got and some of the full pictures. That is one I did not see, so I'm thrilled to see a new one. I guess that's what you guys call pave pause, like the little dots and stuff I see peppering it. But like the other Bill said, that would be flawless except for that. By the way, like Carol, pave pause is really like beating up on your transmission. George sounds pretty good. So anyway, thanks for that, George. That's excellent. Back to you, K6KRQ.
Okay, yeah, that's Pave Pause up at Beale Air Force Base. That's their radar pulses, and that's what you're seeing. If you look on YouTube, George, that you've got a lot of that on there. I raised my power a little bit. Maybe I can get through a little better. So, George, Owen Garriott, that is, that's historical, and that's really vintage equipment he's got in his hands there. So, tell us more about this, George, please. N6YG KP4MD, over.
Yeah, I wasn't even at the radio when I received this. I had it all set up, or automation. I was using the CSN SAC controller, and that was set to continuous mode to continuously track the ISS. And so it would, when the ISS would go overhead, it would, automatically adjust for Doppler shift, which isn't really that important on FM, but I do it anyways. And it kind of helps prevent that slant correction. And I was using, this time around, I was using the KJ6 something H loop. I have a loop antenna. I don't even know where I got it. I might have picked it up at a ham swap. I found it down below. I was like cleaning out a cupboard and container, and I go, where did this come from? I don't know if anybody else have one of those moments. I'm looking at his loop antenna going, if I would have known I had this, I would have been playing with it by now. So I stuck it up real quick for a day and was on a military mast that I had at about 30 feet, and set the radio up to automatically track the ISS and left MMS STV running, and I came back to this. So I got lucky, not a lot of fade. I didn't see a fade on this, and managed to copy a whole picture. I think I tracked it down. I looked on the pass prediction to see when I would have picked this up, and I think I got this on a north where the ISS came out of the north and is set in the what's that, southeast? Set in the southeast. And that's a really, really good direction for me. When they come up behind me from the north to the southwest, nowhere near as good. I have problems in that direction. I don't know why, because I have a clearer horizon in that direction than I do in the other. But it seems like on this other side, they always come out better.
Okay, this KP4MD. Yeah, I remember when Owen Garriott, I believe, was the first astronaut to use amateur radio in space. And at that time, they didn't even have an external antenna on the space shuttle. I guess he was just like holding the whip antenna up next to a window to try to get the signal out of the thing. Uh, that which was outstanding at the time, because I guess it was an afterthought that he brought a radio on board. Uh, that is amazing, and I know he passed away a few years ago, but he was quite a pioneer, and it really caused a lot of excitement in the amateur radio community. Um, Anybody else have any comments on this before we go on? Over.
I have one last comment.
Okay, go ahead, George.
Kind of surprising that they allowed him to do that inside the shuttle. The concerns of RF and the computer equipment that they were running back then. So yeah, that was because NASA can be kind of hardball and stuff like that, requiring approval and testing of everything to make sure that there's no unintended consequences. So anyhow, I thought that was interesting. N6YG, back to Ned.
Okay, thank you very much, George. An excellent picture and an excellent catch. No, I had not seen this picture before either. And it sounds like Pave Pause is quieted down a little bit. I'm not hearing so many clicks on people talking. So let's go next in line here is Joel, AI6DG. If you have a picture, please proceed to send it over. Yes, we hear your tone. Over.
PD-120.
Okay, thank you for that picture, Joel. I will turn it over to George, N6YG. And how did you receive this and your comments on it? Over.
Only a few pixel pops in there. The image came over great. And this looks like, what do they call that system where they're receiving the data from aircraft? I forgot what it's called now. I played around with that for a while years ago. That's what it looks like. Joel will tell us. I, for some reason, cannot remember the name of it. And it looks like it's overlaid with Doppler as well. So yeah, lots of airplanes flying overhead. N6YG.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is one of the first things that I used, one of those RTL-SDR dongles for, and that's really interesting. Over to you, Bill, N6HA, your comments, over.
Yeah, I agree with George. Good call here. Just a few amount of pixel pops, so phase pauses went dwindling down a little bit. It looks like, yeah, we're tracking flights. I think it's called ADS, and you also have some kind of weather overlay. So I wonder if you received the ADS and the weather from their various sources, or if this is from the internet. So yeah, I've never done flight tracking before, but it sounds kind of interesting. So I want to see how it went and if you had any issues with it. N6HA, back to net.
Okay, KP4MD. Yeah, I did this about 10 years ago when they first released the RTL-SDR software, SDR Sharp, and then a version of it came out that was called, let's see, ADSB Sharp. And it plotted these airplanes as they were going overhead, and all I had was a little disco antenna in my window. It was inside, and it was picking up these burst transmissions from the aircraft. I think they call them squawks, which is funny because it makes like they're birds or something. But there were not all of the aircraft had that back then, and I believe a lot more have it now. So why don't you tell us more about this, Joel, please? AI6DG's KP4MD, over.
Yeah, this is the display of my ADSB website, which is getting its info from the ADSB info from the receiver I have. I think some class or all planes are required to have ADSB transmitters on them now. I'm not sure that they all are, but I seem to remember something about a requirement. So, and my station will actually receive planes up to a couple hundred miles, up to 250 miles maybe, if they're at high altitude. So I'm going all the way up to the Oregon border and down to Bakersfield and maybe a little bit beyond, and out into the middle of Nevada, and quite a ways out into the ocean. The main objective here is Doppler radar. Look at the rain coming. I'm not sure if it's coming in waves from the northwest or the southwest, what way it's all coming from, but there's quite a bit of rain out there tonight, and a fair number of planes. Actually, during the day, when you've got all the people doing general aviation, you get 2 or 3 times this number of planes during, especially weekend days. But kind of fun sometimes seeing who and when all the planes are. There's at nighttime, there's times when it's all UPS and FedEx. There's a bunch of flights that take off late at night for Mexico. Anyway, back to net, AI6DG.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing that. And I know that if you, I guess there's some systems like FlightAware that you can sign up and contribute your spots to them, and they give you access to some more extra information. Are you participating in that, over?
None of the pay sites, but there's some open source sites that I am contributing towards. So if you go to, geez, I'm forgetting the names. It's been so long since I set it up. But there's some open source ones that don't do filtering. That's one of the main things. Is most of the pay sites, the plane owners will tell them not to list my plane and pay them some money. So a lot of the commercial ADSB sites don't have a complete feed, whereas that's one of the objectives of the sites I feed, that they feed everyone. They list every plane that comes into them.
Okay, yeah, and that certainly is a lot of fun. You could do this with a cheap little $20 RTL SDR dongle and your laptop computer or a single board computer. It's absolutely amazing what you can do to do this. Are there any further questions on this before we continue?
Yeah, those little SDR dongles are a load of fun, and they have gotten so popular since their initial release that there's just a ridiculous amount of accessories for them, different filters and bandpass filters or whatever you want. They preamps with bias tees in them. Someone new to the hobby can have a lot of fun very inexpensively doing that. They're great.
Comment?
Yeah, go ahead, comment.
You can start cheap, or you can go all in and not go cheap like I did. So this is, again, a relatively inexpensive RTL USB stick, but it's optimized for ADS-B. It does bias T, so up on the antenna, and I have a collinear moderate gain antenna optimized for ADS-B. Right below that, I have a little amp box that it's an LNA, but it's also got a filter, so it filters out anything that's non-ADS-B, and then the amplified signal comes down to the USB dongle, and that coax coming down is, I'm trying to remember if I did LMR 400 or LMR 600 type. It's not the real stuff, so it's probably not quite as good, but almost as good. But I wanted to lose as little of that 1 gig signal coming down as possible. That's one of the objectives of the LNA, but that's how I get out 250 miles. You may only get out 20 to 50 miles as the systems that you're describing with the inside with non-amplified antennas and so forth. Back to net AI6DG.
Yeah, Joel, I've also read that some people actually mount the RTL SDR dongle right up at the antenna on the roof, and then they run a long computer cable down into the shack, so they don't have to worry about loss in coaxial cable. Have you heard of that too? Over.
Yeah, I'll basically do that. Different ways of looking at it as to how to optimize the signal and the reception. As it stands, I've just got coax coming down. You don't have to worry about power because it's on the coax, and I've actually just got the USB stick and the Pi hanging off the end of that coax behind the monitor I'm looking at right now.
There you go. Raspberry, is that a Raspberry Pi 3 or a Pi 4? Over.
I believe it's a 3 because I don't remember it having a USB-C on it, and I know that 4s have USB-C for power. So I'm pretty sure it's a 3, which seems odd because at the time I set that up, it was the latest, greatest, newest thing, and obviously it's not anymore because they keep coming out with new versions of Raspberry Pis.
Oh yeah, they have to do that. And you know those micro USB connectors, they have such a high failure rate that the USB-C is such an improvement over that. Anyway, I have one Raspberry Pi 3 here that I'm using for my All-Star Echolink node, and it does quite well. Doesn't need any more power than just a Raspberry Pi 3, and those are so cheap now. They're very good. Thank you very much for sharing that. Any more comments before we go on? Okay, nothing heard, and we'll go down to Bill. November 6 Hotel Alpha. If you have a picture, we are standing by for your picture. Over.
that, I do have a photo. I wasn't going to do an ISS one, but since everyone else is sharing them, I'll do one more. So this will be PD-120 N6HA.
Okay, Bill, on that transmission, your picture's extremely snowy, and your FM deviation level was extremely low. So I think you have some setting incorrect there. If you want to try it again and you think you can get your modulation up to where it should be, we can try it again. Over.
I noticed the audio input was really low. Let me restart MMS-TV and give it one more shot. Hold standby.
I'm always impressed by MMS TV and the abilities, because I actually received a reasonably viewable picture, especially considering just how low that audio was. I could barely even hear that there was anything there, yet MMS TV still decoded it.
Yeah, I still got it too, but it was very washed out. The colors aren't as deep as I see on the YouTube feed, K6KRQ.
Let me try a tone and see if I see something useful on my waterfall here.
No, it's still too low. I think it's possibly one of your settings there. You might be on the wrong input or something. Over. Yeah, it's still too low. Your voice when you talk is perfectly fine, but when you switch over to your sound card, the deviation goes way down. Well, in any case, if we want, we could do a report on this picture as it is. Let's go up to you, Bill, K6KRQ. How did okay, you have any reports on this picture and how you received it over?
Thank you, Carol. Like I said, the YouTube feed is a lot better, and I'm glad to see this one. This was one of the ones that I only got a partial of, so I'm grateful to be able to see the whole thing. It seemed like there were quite a few of these pictures they transmitted dedicated to this astronaut who, like you say, I looked him up and I found out he passed away recently, within the past few years. But yeah, it looks like something that I might have got, my snowy ones. That's all I can say. K6KRQ.
Okay, yeah, this is Owen Garriott. He was a pioneer, the absolute first astronaut that brought a ham radio, snuck a ham radio on board the space shuttle. So over to you, George, November 6 Yankee Golf. Your copy on it and your comments, over.
Well, as low as the audio drive was on that, it came over surprisingly well. A lot of snow, but it's perfectly copyable. I'm impressed. I can even read it. So, like Joel was saying, impressed with SSTV's ability to decode even really weak signals. So yeah, I think Bill needs to turn up the audio drive just a tad bit. N6YG back to net.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead, comment, please.
You know, this is Bill, K6KRQ. You know, I gotta say, like Carol mentioned him, like sneaking that radio on board, and like I was thinking the same as George. Like, how do you get that thing on there? But you know what? I think we're all old enough to remember when Alan Shepard got that golf club and that ball on board when they landed on the moon, like with Apollo 12. K6KRQ.
Oh yeah, you know, nothing like that would get by unseen, but I'm sure they made special accommodations for these pioneer astronauts because they knew this would go down in history. So, yeah, they would never be able to sneak anything unauthorized on there. They had to account for every single gram of weight that they put on those things. Okay, so over to you, Bill, and your comments on this. N6HA, KP for MD.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry I had issues. I think I figured it out, so I could send another if you guys want. But yeah, I captured this one with my Yagi outside. I don't remember what time it was. I'd have to look at the log. But yeah, it turned out pretty well. It's probably one of the better ones I received. But there is a little bit of a moire that we've noticed on other people's receptions. So even though I get a very strong signal, sometimes it has that weird moire pattern in the back. But let me do a tone real quick and let's see if it's any louder.
Oh yeah, now it's perfect. If you're ready to send another picture, we'll let you do that, over.
Awesome. Yeah, let me, I'll send you a different image. That way you guys get another one. This is going to be PD120 N6HA.
Okay, yeah, much better. Over to you, Joel. AI6DG, your comments on this picture, please. Over.
Very clean, very few pops. Repeater ID just at the top of the photo, so I've got a bit of a bar. Couple of gentlemen sitting in front of a table smiling at the camera. Looks like a world display on the above the left guy's head, although it's pretty faint. And some photos of guys in the center between the two of them on the far wall. Don't recognize either one of them. Oh, wait a minute, we got names down below. Sergey Samburov, RY3DR, and Owen Garrett, W5LFL in 2008. Back to net, AI6DG.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Joel. Back up to Bill, K6KRQ. How did you copy this one? Over.
This is Bill, K6KRQ. Awesome. I got that one really good. That was one of the ones I only got part of, down about to their below Mr. Garriott's or Lieutenant Colonel, whatever he was, chin. I didn't know it was him, so that kind of solved that. Yeah, I see that little bar Joel was talking about, but it's negligible. I notice on YouTube that YouTube takes a while to straighten the picture out. On my computer, it comes out straight immediately. So, but anyway, that's real good, Bill. That's a treasure, that one. Back to you, Carol. K6KRQ.
Okay, yeah, this is KP4MD. What I had to do was on automatic slant adjust. I wait for the entire picture to come through, and then I click that. It's a right click on the picture and high resolution slant adjust, and it straightens it out. That's so I did that manually. Back over to you, Bill. Tell us if you'd like anything more about this picture, please. N6HA. This is KP4MD. Over.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yeah, I was pretty proud of this image. Turned out pretty well. This one I got at 5:10 p.m. Our time, so it was, I didn't have to stand out in the cold, so it turned out pretty well. I think I figured out my issue. Sometimes my modulation switches on the radio from USB to accessory. I don't know why it would change itself, so I might have to play around with that. And I do have quite a slant. That was an aggressive slant on the image. I had adjusted my slant control, the slant to WWV using my audio sound card to decode these, because I pre-record the audio onto an audio device, and then I play it back onto my computer just using the sound card. So I needed to adjust my slant to be my internal microphone. And that's probably why my slant's so off. So I need to go back in and adjust it back to my radio sound card. So yeah, sorry about that. But I'm glad it adjusted properly. Anyways, N6HA, back to that.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead, comment.
I should have waited to see if you're going to send it to somebody else. I can make my comment afterwards.
Okay, very good. Now, if it's about this picture, why don't you go ahead, George, unless I have a comment here from Alan. It says, very clean image, superb reception from Alan K6AGW. George?
All right, yeah, it came over beautiful here. So you were outside with the aero antenna tracking the ISS across the sky in the cold. I'm not sure I can do that right now. But yeah, it came over. It looks great. In fact, the audio through the repeater actually came over good. I guess that was the repeater ID just above the N and the RS0 ISS and NA1SS. So yeah, looks good. As far as the slant control on the RX tab, as you're receiving the images. On the sync tab, if you click that sync tab, you'll have a couple buttons across the bottom. There's a little smiley face. If you click that, it'll do the high resolution sync with that button right there. And then there's one that says MEM, M-E-M. And if you press the memory button, then it writes that to the configuration file, and will save it. So if you're in a QSO with someone who has a calibrated sound card, then they can send you an image, and you can calibrate off that image by just hitting that sync button and then hitting the MEM button, and then it'll calibrate your sound card for you automatically. N6YG.
Okay, any other comments to George about that procedure, or shall we continue? Okay, well, I guess I'm going to send a picture then. It's getting up near the top of the hour, and this is going to be PD120. Okay, over to George, N6YG. How did you copy this and your comments? Over.
Other than the repeater ID at an unfortunate moment just across the bottom, that would have been an excellent picture, one of the best I've received from you. There's just a few pixel pops in there from PayPause, and other than that, very clear, very readable. 7.0386 and 7.028. QRP Labs, little QRP transceiver. So very good job, N6YG.
Okay, thank you, George. We'll go next to Joel, AI6DG. How did you receive this and your comments on it? Over.
Excellent reception. Like George said, few pops, although they kind of pop out with the black background. I'm actually on the QRP Labs website now taking a look at this transceiver. Looks interesting. I'm wondering what the GPS option is. I see a GPS outlet on the back of the radio. Could you explain what that is? Back to net, AI6DG.
Okay, sure. Yeah, this is KP4MD. This is the transceiver I just built last week. I had it in the box since June. And I was going to build it before I went on vacation in the Caribbean. I came down with COVID, so I wasn't in a state of mind to do any of this kind of building. And it waited in the box until last week when I decided I finally got to get this thing put together. And it took me actually out of the week just about 4 days of work to get this together. It's a 12 band. It goes from 160 meters all the way up to 6 meters. QRP radio does CW and Digi modes, and they're going. You could see on the front panel there's a next to the earphone jack. There's one that says microphone paddle. So they're going to be adding a single sideband in the next firmware upgrade, which is supposed to be released sometime within a month or so. And yes, it does have a GPS option, which I have installed in mine. And what that does is you can use it to calibrate the frequency in the transceiver to within 1 hertz accuracy. And it also it can synchronize the real-time clock to within 1 second. And it also, I know it does something else. Yeah, it can derive your Maidenhead grid square from the GPS and stick that all in the beacon mode, because besides being used as a regular transceiver, you can set it up as an automatic beacon for whisper or for what was the other thing? CW or the QRSS, really slow speed CW, FSK type CW. And it will really give you a really accurate frequency lock on that. So it's pretty neat to have all of this technology in a radio, which costs $125. And most of the, of course, the surface mount stuff is already comes pre-installed on the board, which makes it so easy. You're just putting through the whole parts, which is basically the low-pass filters for transmit, which there are a lot of because you got a lot of bands, and then the bandpass filters for the receive side, and then mounting on the connectors and mating the display board to the main PC board, and putting all the knobs and the controls on. So it was a delight, and actually I am so happy that I waited until Hans Sommer came out with this particular model after doing the QCX, the QCX Plus, and the QDX. His dream was to marry all of the features of those older radios into this. So I am happy that I waited to get this, and I'm really having a lot of fun with it. So back to you, Joel. Did you have any other comments or questions? Over.
Yeah, I love building things like this, although I'm not a fan of the winding of the toroids, although it kind of grows on you a little bit. I think the worst part, though, is trying to strip the enamel off. So I actually found, or ran across someone who I got in a conversation about this, and they showed me these little tweezer-like things that instead of holding something there, they have little scrapers on each side. So you clamp it on the wire and pull, and it's supposed to scrape the enamel off. I've got those on the way. Should be here. Make it a lot easier to finish the project I have sitting on the desk in front of me with all these toroids that I'm dreading having to strip the enamel off of. I'm looking forward to seeing if it actually works and makes it easier, because if it makes it easier, then that makes projects like this a lot easier, at least for me. Anyway, very tempting. I'm going to have to think about this and look at the specs some more. Thanks for that. Back to you, AI6DG.
Okay, yeah, you're very welcome. And Alan, K6AGW says, nice image, fun build project. I saw your build post. Yeah, I've been sharing this on social media. What I did. There were a total of like 20 toroid coils that had to be wound for this thing, and I totaled up the number of turns on all of the toroids together, came up to 500, just to right around 500 turns. Yeah. So at first it was kind of slow going, but then I found a trick that Alan Wolke has, W2AEW, where you put these little toroids on the tapered end of a chopstick that kind of holds it steady, and then you can use both of your hands. It frees both of your hands, so you can feed the wire through smoothly, and it doesn't kink the wires, so it goes a lot faster that way, and that worked very well for me. And as far as stripping the enamel off the end of the magnet wire, where you have to solder it into the board, what Hans Sommer says is just burn it off with a hot soldering iron, and that worked. This was number 28 enamel wire, so the particular enamel that was on there was very thin, and it burned off pretty quickly. For the thicker wire, yeah, sometimes you have to what I use is an emery board. They say you could use sandpaper also. I'm very hesitant to use a knife to try to scratch it off because I'm afraid I'm going to nick the wire. So, do we have any other questions or comments on this? This is KP4MD.
Yeah, I do. N6YG.
AI6DG.
Okay, we've got a lot of comments. So, over to you, George. N6YG first, over.
Yeah, talking about service mount, they sent me a new soldering station to do a review on by JBC. It's a 2BQF micro soldering station which is absolutely amazing. It's funny that some of the previous reviews were really bad on it. It got like 3 stars as this horrible soldering. And then as I was reading the reviews, I want to call them morons. I probably shouldn't say that. I already did anyways. We're giving it bad reviews because they were trying to use this soldering iron to solder 8-gauge cable to XT60 connectors, and which was just dumbfounding to me. I said in my review, I said using this iron to solder XT60 connectors is like using a pitchfork to carve a turkey. It's very, very tiny precision work. And so I was testing it, building an MMDVM kit. Well, it wasn't a kit, but it's an MMDVM board. It's an open source project, so you can order the PC board, which I ordered. And so I was practicing soldering the QFP that's on that. And what an amazing soldering iron. The tip that I was using is the exact same size. Normally I would drag solder or hot air solder that QFP, but I hand soldered this time 1 pin at a time with this iron, and it was just absolutely amazing how quick and fast it was. Very impressed. Not sure I would buy one for $500, but because there are cheaper options out there. But yeah, there's no reason for people nowadays to be scared of surface mount. The tools are there to do this. I mean, trying to do that with something like my Hacko iron would be just impossible. But that little, if you get a chance, look them up. They've got some really, really nice equipment. So I think that's all I was going to add. N6YG, back to net.
Okay, yeah, this is KP4MD. I do have a hot air, what they call a rework station that I just ordered about a week ago, and I'm planning to use that with some other stuff that I'm working on. What was the name of that one that you're trying, over?
JBC, and it's the 2BQF. They have several different models, and there are even, to be honest, I couldn't say it in my review, but there are some clones out there that you can pick up a clone that'll take those tips, for $60. And the thing is to use when you're working on this, to real small stuff, is to actually use the JBC tips. Don't cheap out and buy clone tips. The handle, the iron, that's all easy technology. But I was watching a review that someone else had done where they were examining the JBC tips under a microscope and comparing them to the clones, and it's just absolutely stunning to see at that level, when you're talking about this level of precision, these tiny little things, at the difference between the clones and the tips. And it takes a lot of convincing to spend $38 on a soldering iron tip. But you know, they last a long time on these because they go to sleep. You know, as soon as you put them down, they go to sleep, so they don't burn up like the old irons when you put them down and they were going full blast all the time. So yeah, look those up. N6YG. One last thing on the hot air rework station. I have two of those here. I have the Weller, and I have another one. I'll try to send you the link if I can. I already sent it, I think, to Bill. There's a really nice hot air pencil set, and I think the smallest nozzle on this thing is 0.5 millimeters. So it's a half a millimeter is the smallest nozzle. Really precise, really pinpoint heat. That is just an amazing little tool. I'm waiting for them to send me one. I keep seeing it pop up, so I'm kind of hinting if they'll send me one to do a review on. Much better than the big, like my big Weller. I think the smallest tip I have for that's maybe 5 millimeters in diameter. And so when you're doing real small stuff, you end up having to put aluminum tape down on the board to protect other items. This little pencil is just real precise. So N6YG, back to net.
Okay, thank you very much for that, George. I did mark that down, and I was looking on Googling that station you talked about. Over to you, Bill, N6HA, and your comment, over.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I think it was Joel that had the comment, but I'm going to take a spot because I have some questions also. I see that there's an SDR feature where you can get the IQ out of this box. So I'm wondering if you had a chance to test that and how well it worked. And I'm staring at the schematics. I'm going to stare at it a little longer. I'm wondering if once they get the single sideband feature working, how well the modulation will work, because I know the True SDX is doing the modulation in software. So I wonder if they're going to do something similar and if the audio quality could be improved. N6HA.
Yeah, wow. Okay, I'm sorry I jumped over you, Joel. The modulation system is similar to it's the same basic principle as the one in the TrueDX, but the difference is TrueDX uses an 8-bit processing of the audio, and this uses, I believe, a 16-bit. So the quality is magnitudes greater. And actually, Hans Summers has posted a YouTube video showing the sound reproduction off of his single sideband modulating system on this radio, and it's absolutely incredibly clear. Where the TrueDX has like 20% distortion, just due to the nature of their circuit, Hans Sommer has really come out with a really high fidelity type of single sideband modulation. The IQ, I've read about that also, and what you can do is you can take the I and the Q audio streams, feed it into another computer, which will then display a you can have the full SDR display, with the waterfall and the spectrum and the demodulation in an external computer if you really wanted to do that. I have not tried it. I've done that with the KX3. The KX3 does the same thing, but you can feed that audio into the PX3 and get that little display there. But you could also do the same thing with the KX3 and feed it into like a regular PC that's running a program like Power SDR and get that kind of demodulation and display. Did that answer your question, Bill? Over.
Very much so, thank you. Yeah, I'll have to find that video. That sounds interesting. I might have to make an investment here in this radio. Thanks for tempting me. N6HA.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry I jumped over you, Joel. AI6DG, over to you, over.
Yeah, as far as soldering irons, I mean, that's as true with so many things when it comes to tools. You get the tool for the job. I would never pay that almost $600 for that soldering station, especially since there's so many other comparable um, stations available. But you don't want to spend too much. You don't want to spend too little. You've got to get decent quality. So you want something with a selection of tips because you want to match the tip to the job you're working on size-wise. And you want it to be temperature controlled, and you want it to be plated so with whatever they put on those tips so that that lasts a long time and so that you can clean it and then tin it. So it looks like an amazing iron. I mean, really small tips. Wow. But the price is also wow. Hot air. I end up using my hot air gun on my rework station more for shrink tubing than anything else. There's been a few times though when I want to heat something up that's got solder on it to either pull the part off or to try to resolder something that's become intermittent. On the enamel, they use different types of enamels on the wire, and some of the enamels do not burn off. You've got to scrape it off. So it just depends on what type of enamel is on the wire you're dealing as to whether heating it is sufficient. Back to net, AI6DG.
I have another comment.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Joel. And go ahead, George, please, over.
I hate to do this. On that, I agree with Joel on that. There are clones out there. You can get them for $60 that are really, really good. The only place I would not skimp is on the tips. I wouldn't use any, when you're working on such small stuff, I wouldn't use any of the clone tips. I would definitely spend the money, save the money on the workstation and put it towards real good tips. And you'll have a nice station. I really like that micro station. I'm very impressed with it. Look this up if you guys have something to write down with. It's Y Yankee India Hotel Uniform Alpha 8509-I. Yankee India Hotel Uniform Alpha 8509-I. It is a precision hot air rework station. The smallest nozzle on this thing is 0.5 millimeters. You can watch the video on it on Amazon. There's a neat little video. I'm waiting for them to send me one of these to do a review on. So, real neat stuff. N6YG.
Okay, thank you very much for that, George. And yeah, Bill, I'll send you the link for the YouTube video of the demonstration so you can see what he did with the audio. Well, we've had a really long net, a lot of good discussion here. Wow, we've gone over to an hour and 15 minutes. And any other comments before we close the net at this time, KP Fremdy? Okay, I guess not. So I'm going to go ahead and just close the net because it is rather late. Want to thank everyone who participated in tonight's Slow Scan Television Net, and we hope to see you again next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Pacific Time. And I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, that is the day before Thanksgiving. So nothing special, just get the turkey stuffed and defrosted, huh? So this net is officially closed at 10:17 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is Carol, Kilo Papa 4 Mike Delta, wishing you all a very good evening, and 73.
All right, good night, Carol. Thanks for running the net. And Bill, are you still around?
Yeah, I'm here. Well, I assume you mean me or which Bill? N6HA.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. N6HA, N6YG.
I'm here. What's going on?
Oh, not much. Did you get a chance to look at that that soldering iron? Or soldering station, I should say.
It's a nice looking soldering station. Way out of my price range, though.
Oh yeah, you can get them much cheaper than that. The tips are what's expensive. So $38 a tip. But like I was saying, that's what makes a difference. There's a good video on YouTube where someone compares tips from the OEM, from JBC, and then from the cheap Chinese tips. And man, when he puts them under a microscope, which is what you're going to be doing when you're working with it anyways, that's what I said in my review. I said, these guys are a bunch of morons, man. They're all complaining, giving it 3 stars. It's I bought this iron and I tried to solder a XT60 connector, and it wouldn't even get the wire hot, and I had to hold it there for 5 minutes, and like, oh my God, that's just absolutely ridiculous.
That's a basic misunderstanding of how soldering works and how you need to have sufficient heat transfer.
Well, yeah, you got to have the right tool for the right job. For a job like that, you want thermal mass. You want a heavy tip that can transfer a lot of energy very quickly. And so those irons are fast. They recover extremely quickly because they're active tips. So the heating element and the sensors built into the tips. That's why the station itself is not really critical. It's the tip where all the important stuff is at. So you buy the $38 tip and you use a $60 base instead of a $500 base.
You have the same problem with people talking about how many watts their soldering iron is. You don't necessarily need more watts. It depends on the job. Sometimes you do. Sometimes, most of the time, you don't.
Yep. Yeah, I've got a lot of time on my hands, so I'm doing a lot of repair work and working on my miniature soldering skills, on my precision soldering skills. Repairing old phones. I have a bunch of old phones, so I've been practicing desoldering the USB-C connectors and replacing those and various components. I'll pull the components off and put them back on to practice.
Hey, I've got 2 or 3 old Kindles that died on me when they wouldn't charge anymore, presumably because the USB plug solder joint broke inside. Think you could fix them?
Probably. It's not my favorite thing to do, but yeah. Give me a little time and we'll see before I go commercial on that sort of stuff. But did you get a chance to look up that hot air rework station I mentioned? It's kind of expensive too. Those prices will be coming down, but if you're doing a lot of work, that thing is amazing. It's the smallest tip on it is 0.5 millimeter, 0.5 millimeters, real fine pitch. So if you work with a hot air rework station, one of the problems with those hot air rework stations is they heat up such a large area that you end up damaging components off to the side of them. So you spend more time with aluminum tape. Some people use like the what's that? Heat-resistant tape. I use aluminum tape from the hardware store and tape that down. It works better. But yeah, this hot air rework station, I think, will completely eliminate that.
Is that just a hot air, or is it also do soldering tip? Because some of those I couldn't really tell. Is that a soldering tip or is that a hot air tube that's just incredibly small?
No, that's a hot air rework station. That's a very, very tiny 0.5 millimeter hot air nozzle.
Crazy small nozzle.
I'm torn between using a hot air sometimes on this real small stuff, or hand soldering it with the JBC. And I actually kind of like doing the hand soldering a little bit, but you know, the air soldering with the paste also works. So, anyways, yeah, all sorts of fun. I find it therapeutic. So, Bill, by the way, I got a chance to play with that FT3 DR, and I really like that radio. I think that I was being overcritical when I first saw it of the touchscreen system, but it works real well.
I enjoy the radio. It's my daily driver, so I get some good use out of it. And the touchscreen isn't, yeah, it's useful. It's not, you know, that obtrusive. To set the PL tones on some repeaters and the offsets, that's quite a menu dive to do that. So that's maybe my biggest complaint about that radio is if you're going to hand program it, it's a little more complicated than it should be for like a lot of these other radios. You push 2 buttons and you're good. Yeah, back to your hot air station, I've actually blown parts off by using a rework station. And usually my go-to is if I'm removing a surface mount part, I'll use hot air. But if I'm soldering anything, I always use a very fine pen tip to solder anything down, even surface mount parts. I'll drag solder across and then hit it with a wick if it's like a IC. That usually works pretty well. Then you clean it up with some alcohol. So yeah, that's interesting how small that tip is. That would have been useful for for my work at N6NA.
If you're talking about the hot air rework station, yeah, the price is a little high, I think. I mean, you can get those Chinese soldering stations. You can get some of those for like $60, $70. Good ones are still about $300 though. So, anyhow, I really like the FT3. I've only been using it for 2 days. I got a smoking deal on that, so. And I can see, I like it much better. I agree with you. I like it much better as a daily driver than I do the Kenwood. Don't get me wrong, I like the D74, but I don't think I would even use that as a daily driver. They're just too fragile. The Yaesu just is much more durable. They protect the screen better. The screen is recessed. There's a bezel around it, so where Kenwood for some reason likes to put that screen right up there front and center to get damaged with nothing on the corners to protect it from a bump, you know.
Be really cautious on super cheap workstations. I mean, you got to find that Goldilocks zone between price and quality. I mean, I got a station for well under $100. That's hot air and soldering with tips, and it's great. Works great for me, but I can definitely tell that the quality isn't necessarily there. Sometimes when I'm pushing really hard with the tip on something, the whole handle wants to kind of fall apart because the plastic threads just aren't robust enough for the stress I'm putting on it. And I'm sure if it was a Weller that it wouldn't have any problem.
Well, that's what I'm using. I have a Weller WTHA1, and that thing's just ridiculous. That thing's over $1,000. Well, it was then. It's probably about $800 now. And that's just it's nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's well built. It's nice. I'm gonna sell it. I've had a couple people show interest in it, and I mean the tips on these things. I mean the damn tips are like $138. You want a new tip? It's $150. So that's too much. There are some other brands that are in the $300 range that are you know will suit me just fine. So I'm gonna sell that and and use the money to fund the different station. So hopefully they'll send me one of those micro air soldering stations to do a review on. I'm gonna wait a year and see if one pops up or not.
So do you change the size of the tip in relation to what you're wanting to disc solder? So if it's a single small surface mount component, you do a small tip. If it's a large mini pin CPU chip or something like that, you use a larger tip? Or do you just use the small one and move it around a lot on the larger things?
I adjust for size, but you would on this one. See, what's neat about this micro station is it's the first, I've never used a hot air rework station with active tips. All the hot air rework stations, including the Weller, all have the active components built into the handle, and so when you replace the tip is just a nozzle. It's just steel, just a stamped steel, chrome plated, whatever it is, nozzle that directs the air. On that precision unit, the tips are actually active tips. The heater and everything other than the air source is in the tip.
Well, that begins to explain the prices.
Yeah, but if it works as good as it looks like it does, and you're doing a lot of work, if you're then it's worthwhile.